What questions are you asking yourself? Hello, brilliant souls. This is Pamela Aubrey, and I want to talk to you a little bit about the questions that you've been asking yourself and talk to you a little bit about the questions that I have been learning to ask myself. I have been reading this fantastic book for the last few months. It's called Building the Bridge. The bridge from your dreams to your destiny. And it's by Mark Hansen and Crystal Dwyer Hansen. And this book has been so powerful and life-changing for me because it has really shown me how to ask different and better questions in my life. And that really helped me to grow in a way that honestly I didn't expect. When I got the book, it just sounded great. I just thought, I have to read this book. This sounds like there's going to be a lot of good stuff in here. But I didn't expect the outcome. And one of the things that really kind of popped out to me first about this book was that it presented this idea of, expectations. Like, what are our expectations in life? Hi, Zubair. Great to see you on. Thanks for being here. And, what we perceive is possible for us in life. And, that was something I hadn't given as much thought to as I could have and should have. And so it really kind of made me realize, hi, Scott, great to see you. Thanks for coming on, you guys. As always, great to have you here and love your comments. Thank you for being here. But it just really, it brought a lot of things up for me that were thought-provoking. And it really made me step back and take a look at my life in a different way. And it started to sort of open my mind to more of the roadblocks that I had been letting get in my way throughout my life. And so as I went through the book and I started asking myself these questions, I really had this new awareness around my tendency to limit myself and the ways that I was doing that. And it was interesting because a few nights ago, I kind of sat back and I thought, okay, 2020 was a pretty good year. There were a lot of good things that happened, a lot of things that I was grateful for, a lot of things that I didn't anticipate going into 2020. And looking back, I thought none of those things would have happened if I didn't have some kind of expectation for them. And, it really made me realize that somewhere along the way, I had started to make that shift. But I also realized that there were still things that I was choosing that weren't really serving me. And so I had to ask myself, why is that? Why am I choosing things, consciously or unconsciously, that really aren't serving me in the way that I would hope that they would? Hi, Cindy. Great to see you. Thanks for being here. And I'm curious. I would love to know. You guys, put your questions in the chat. What are you asking yourself? What are the things that, when you look back over 2020, when even when you just look at, where you are now and where you're going in 2021, what are some of the questions that you're asking yourself around that? For me, looking back was great because it showed me some things I did really well. But it showed me where I still had limitations and where my expectations still just weren't what they really should be. Hi, Samuel. Great to see you. Hi, Joan. I love your comments. Great comments. Yes, it's a big learning experience to see how things are really serving us. It's really so true. And I know for me, allowing myself to move into a space where I was okay with expecting certain things. I had some bad habits in the past. I had a way of allowing things in my life that didn't serve me on a lot of levels. And understanding, okay, if I want my life to look different going forward, I'm going to have to fix the way I'm looking at those things, the way that I'm approaching them, and think about what my expectation could be, or maybe even should be around it. But I like to use the word could because to me, it brings up this idea that we're always creating. And so what is it that I really want to create? And that was the question that came to me ultimately, was what is it in 2021 that I want to create? And, the funny thing to me about asking questions is that we kind of have this expectation that we're going to immediately get the answer. And sometimes we do. I actually had a sort of an interesting experience with this just last night. I was having my meditation time, and I had actually pulled a few cards, like I often do on here. And one of the cards in particular just kind of spoke to me. And so I sat with it for a little bit, and then I just heard this little voice in the back of my head kind of giving me an instruction. And I thought, well, that's kind of odd, because that's something I've sort of put on the back burner. I haven't really been looking at that like much the last month or so. That kind of seems like out of nowhere, but okay. And so I did. I just, I kind of acted on that little voice. And what was so interesting was that within a few minutes, I found something that I hadn't found in hours and hours of searching in the previous months when I had been looking so intently into this. And so, it's funny too how questions can help us with timing. It can help us to move into something that maybe we didn't even know we needed to move toward, right? Maybe it's been in the back of our mind. Maybe it's been on the back burner. And so by kind of taking those few moments, again, just kind of getting quiet and allowing ourselves that space to be with ourselves and ask ourselves those important questions, then we get the opportunity to get the answers. And I really appreciate this, Samuel. Subconscious conditioning is the cause. Awareness overcomes it. So very true. And I know, for me, that has been a really big hurdle. Awareness was a huge hurdle for me. It took me a long time to get to the point of having the awareness that I really needed to have around certain things. But when I got to that point, it was questions that really helped me to go to the next level. And I love how in the book it actually kind of talks about how questions will help you to set your expectations. And they'll also help you to, understand better how to ask questions of others. And it helps you to then also understand your highest potential. And this was sort of one of my favorite questions, which was, what is my highest potential? I really had to sit with that one. I mean, and every time I think about it, it just really resonates with me, because I have a tendency to fall away from that thinking of, I'm really here for a purpose. There's really something important that I need to do. I'm here for a reason. I have a tendency to get caught up in just the everyday stuff, the tasks, the duties, and lose sight of the bigger picture. And it's kind of like, it sits in the back of your mind a little bit, it's kind of there, but at the same time, you're not pulling it forward. It's not right in front of you. And so what I love about that is when we're looking at a new year, we can say, okay, I want to go into this new year with the expectation of living out my highest potential, of moving towards that greatest version of me, right? And I love this, Samuel, me too, right? I mean, it's just, it's like the human condition to get caught up in what we see around us, what we have to deal with immediately, what's right here in the 3D, and we forget that the most important things are actually happening in the spirit realm. And so it's when we get quiet, it's when we're with ourselves long enough to ask those questions that we get to have that conversation and we get those answers that we really want and need. And, I was talking with a client yesterday, and we were talking about heart math. And I'll talk about it occasionally on my lives, but I think it's really an important and easy tool for so many of us to use. It's quick, and it helps us facilitate this process. So when we're talking about getting in that space of tapping into our intuition, or connecting our head and our heart, this is such an easy way for us to do that. And it only takes a few minutes. It's just literally those, 2 or 3 minutes of putting our hand over our heart and allowing ourselves to just breathe and be in that space. And, I love to do this first thing in the morning. I actually love to do it for a lot longer than 2 or 3 minutes. I am not a morning person, so I make the most of that time, because that's a great way for me to wake up and be in a space of alignment, like first thing in the morning. And then from there, I can do some quick little energy exercises and I'm up and going. And it just sets your day. It's a different tone. It's a different energy. It's a different feeling. And then the other thing I love to do, I have note cards. I know I've shared this with you guys before, but I love to have things that I've written on my note cards that I revisit first thing in the morning before I, do anything else. I mean, sure, go get a drink of water, whatever you have to do. But then, just to sit for a few minutes and really allow myself to be in that space where I get to meditate and focus on the things that are really most important. And I think this is another perfect time to sit with some of those questions, and it also allows us to, have one question one day and then have one question another day. It doesn't have to be the same every day. And then writing all of that down, putting our answers on paper, putting our questions on paper is really powerful as well, and allows us to then go back to it and revisit it and see, as time has gone on, what we have learned from that. This is so true, Samuel. We're not taught how to be creators in school. That is about to change. I certainly hope so. That is really, I would love to see that change take place. I would love to see kids educated in a way that it empowers them, because that certainly has not been a part of the education system. And them learning these tools, them learning to ask themselves these questions and to understand what awareness is and how it serves them is such a powerful thing. So I absolutely agree with you. And Joan says, I love this process. Thank you. I put my hand over my heart frequently, but didn't think of it as an alignment. Yes, yeah, absolutely. And what's interesting too, don't forget that when you do this exercise, it's lowering your cortisol levels. This is so healthy for you. It's improving your immune system. It's, not only aligning your energy, but it's actually aligning your internal systems, your neurological systems. And so they're running more efficiently and your body gets less stressed. And as we all know, there's been enough stress in 2020. And this is just one way for you to take care of yourself, do that little bit of self-care in the morning. It's also great before you go to bed at night. It will really help, bring your body into that coherence and help you to sleep much better. So it's absolutely a powerful tool. And Samuel, it's crazy. I just dropped a post about that. That is so funny. There's some synchronistic energy in the air. I love that. That's one of my favorite things. I was actually on Joan's live last night, and she was talking about something that had come up for me just a couple days before that. And so too funny that you were posting about the same thing. I love it. And so, yeah, I just wanted to pop on for a few minutes. Didn't plan for this to be lengthy, but just had a few things that I wanted to put out there because I feel like these are really important questions and things to consider. And this is a time when maybe we need to do these things more than ever. I think there's been a lot of difficult things that have happened throughout human history. And when we look back at history, and we see things that have happened and the experiences people have had and really, what has transpired in the world, we can look at that and say, okay, yeah, there have been other times. These sorts of difficult times have come and we've gotten through them. And so we know that we have this great resiliency as humans. But I think it's really amazing and wonderful that we have so many tools now that we can use that can really support us and help us that we didn't have in the past. And I think that's a really beautiful thing. John says vibrational alignments. Yes, exactly. Yeah, we're all connected, right? I mean, it's And that's just it. I mean, that's really just it, is that we're, everyone keeps saying it, we're all in this together. But the truth is that we've always been in it together, and we're always going to be in it together. This is nothing new. We just are going through an evolution. We're learning to do things better. And, it requires us all taking that time to be introspective, to look back, to look forward, and to ask ourselves questions that will help us move into the next phase of really, where humanity is going. Of course, this supports us individually as well, but it also supports us as a collective. And I think, it's interesting when you look at it from that perspective, that when we're doing the work for us, we're actually doing the work for other people on some level too. And, like Samuel was saying, it goes back to, what does that mean for our kids? What does that mean for our grandkids? What's the world that they are going to be left with? We are creating that world right now. And so it matters, these little things matter, because the more that we do them and the more that we pass them on and teach our kids to do them, then the more the world becomes what we really want it to be. And so, despite the difficulties, we have a lot of opportunities to make some really amazing and powerful changes in the world. And so I just encourage you to take that little bit of time, and you'll be glad you did. You're going to feel better. You're going to enjoy it. And you're going to have a different kind of energy in your day. And that's a wonderful thing too. So thank you so much, Joan. I appreciate you as well, and loved being on your live last night as always. Such a blessing, and such a blessing to be with all of you. Such a joy to have you here with me, and to be able to share in your experiences and share some of mine as well. So lots of love and light to all of you. Have a wonderful rest of your evening.